If you were a crook in 1969 Australia, what car would you need to escape the cops? Turns out, it probably wouldn't matter, because their patrol cars were just that fast. One officer swore his patrol car was so powerful, criminals didn't even try to run. The sound alone made them give up. But here's the twist. Some of these cars were so extreme, the Australian government quietly erased them from official records. From muscle cars faster than anything on the road to modifications so wild, they'd be illegal today. These are the police vehicles Australia doesn't want you to remember. Number 5. Holden HK Monaro, GTS 327. It's Melbourne, 1968. Bank robbers are making off with the cash faster than the cops can chase them. The Victoria Police had a serious problem. Their standard fleet of 4-cylinder Holdens just couldn't keep up with the criminals' getaway cars. Their solution? A secret weapon that would change Australian police pursuits forever, the Holden HK Monaro GTS 327. This wasn't just any muscle car. It was Australia's homegrown answer to American muscle, and it caused quite the stir when it quietly entered police service. Government officials fought against its introduction, calling it unnecessarily powerful and a waste of taxpayer dollars. But a small group of forward-thinking police commanders won the battle, arguing that modern policing required modern vehicles. What made the Monaro so special? Under that sleek bonnet sat a Chevrolet 327 cubic-inch V8 engine pushing out 250 horsepower. This beast could hit 125 miles per hour. Speeds so intimidating that many officers initially refused assignment to the vehicles, requiring special high-speed training courses to be developed. The most brilliant part of the Monaro police program was its secrecy. Only 3 examples were ever commissioned, and they weren't decorated with the typical police livery. Instead, they wore standard civilian colours, blues, golds and greens, making them Australia's first true sleeper police cars. Criminals never saw them coming until red lights were flashing in their rearview mirrors. These weren't just stock Monaros with a radio slapped in. Each received extensive hidden modifications, including heavy-duty suspension components, upgraded cooling systems to handle long pursuits, and specially designed radio equipment concealed within the dashboard. The Monaro experiment was short-lived. After just 18 months of service, all 3 were quietly pulled from duty and sold at government auctions with their police histories deliberately obscured. The paperwork was intentionally separated from the vehicles, making authentic police Monaros nearly impossible to verify today, though that hasn't stopped countless owners from claiming they have one. Number 4. Chrysler Valiant RT Charger. The Valiant Charger RT burst onto Australia's streets in 1971, becoming both the darling of young speed demons and secretly the new ace up the sleeve for select police departments. While Ford and Holden battled for market dominance, Chrysler Australia quietly delivered what officers themselves nicknamed the most terrifying pursuit vehicle ever built in Australia. What made the Charger so special? It wasn't a V8 like the Monaro. Instead, it packed Chrysler's legendary Hemi 6 engine. This inline-6 power plant delivered performance that rivaled or exceeded many V8s while wrapped in a uniquely aggressive body style, unlike anything else on Australian roads. The distinctive Coke bottle styling and fastback profile made it instantly recognisable in rear-view mirrors. Queensland and South Australia police departments were the primary adopters, but these acquisitions didn't come without internal battles. Government fleet managers actively fought against deploying such powerful vehicles, citing concerns about cost and public perception. However, senior officers insisted on having them in their arsenal, and their instincts proved correct. The police spec Chargers featured the coveted E38 performance package, which included a 4-barrel Weber carburetor and higher compression ratio. This configuration produced an astonishing 280 horsepower, making these pursuit vehicles faster than many exotic imports of the era. Even more remarkable was their 0 to 100 km/h time of just 6.3 seconds, practically supercar territory for the early 1970s. What surprised officers most wasn't the Charger's raw speed, but its psychological impact. Criminals who might normally attempt to outrun standard police sedans would often pull over immediately upon spotting a Charger's distinctive silhouette in their mirrors. As one retired Queensland officer later recounted, "Half the time, we didn't even have to chase them. They just gave up when they saw what was coming after them." The Charger's reign as Australia's premier pursuit vehicle was cut short by the 1973 oil crisis. As fuel prices soared, these thirsty pursuit vehicles became increasingly difficult to justify. Most were either scrapped or stripped of police equipment and sold to civilians with no record of their law enforcement service. Number 3. Mini Cooper S. As the fuel crisis sent those gas-guzzling Chargers to an early retirement, police departments found themselves in a peculiar predicament: how to chase criminals effectively without burning through their shrinking fuel budgets. The solution? A car that seemed more suited to clown college than crime fighting, the Mini Cooper S. Standing just over 3 feet tall, these pint-sized patrol cars became a common sight in Australia's major cities during the late 1960s and early 70s. Initially, the sight of a uniformed officer unfolding himself from what looked like a motorized shoebox was met with uncontrolled laughter. Even veteran cops assigned to mini patrol duty often requested transfers, considering the assignment beneath their dignity. That ridicule quickly faded once these tiny terrors proved their worth on crowded city streets. The police spec minis could dart through traffic gaps that left larger pursuit vehicles hopelessly blocked. Their low center of gravity and go-kart-like reflexes transformed narrow alleys and congested urban centers from escape routes into perfect traps. The police modifications were impressive for such a small canvas. Reinforced suspension systems handled the constant abuse of curb jumping and pothole-filled back streets. Custom equipment storage utilized every available inch, with ingenious fold-out compartments hiding everything from first aid kits to portable radios. The most distinctive addition was the oversized blue light mounted on the roof, which appeared comically disproportionate, like a bowling ball balanced on a cricket ball. Most fascinating was their tactical deployment. Urban police stations typically operated them in coordinated pairs, using radio communication to set up pincer movements. One mini would pursue, while another cut through side streets to block the escape route. Their size became their greatest advantage. They could literally park across narrow pedestrian paths or service lanes where larger vehicles couldn't follow. Number 2. Land Rover Series 2, Bush Patrol. Beyond the reach of city lights and coordinated Mini Cooper tactics lay a completely different policing frontier that few Australians ever witnessed. In territories where the horizon stretched unbroken for hundreds of kilometres, a specialised vehicle roamed the outback, one that blurred the line between transportation, survival shelter, and mobile justice system. The Bush Patrol vehicles weren't flashy or particularly fast, but they were arguably the most important police vehicles in Australia's history. These rugged machines patrolled areas so vast that officers might drive for days without seeing another person. Each Land Rover was a completely self-contained unit designed to function as a mobile police station in Australia's harshest environments. What made these vehicles truly remarkable was their comprehensive modification package. While urban police worried about pursuit capabilities, outback officers needed something entirely different: survival systems. Each Bush Patrol carried water tanks holding up to 50 gallons, supplementary fuel cells that extended range to over 700 kilometres, and a complete toolkit that would make a mechanic jealous. The ingenious rear compartment could transform from secure prisoner transport to emergency field hospital in under 5 minutes. Officers even carried veterinary supplies, as they were often the only help available when station owners' livestock needed attention. The men who operated these vehicles weren't typical police officers either. They underwent specialised training that combined traditional law enforcement with survival skills, basic medicine, and even amateur radio operation. Their jurisdictions sometimes covered areas larger than some European countries, and they operated under what was called the Outback Protocol, a set of unofficial guidelines that granted them extraordinary decision-making authority. The interior featured a compact communications system that could relay messages to headquarters hundreds of kilometres away, using high-frequency radio. The vehicle essentially functioned as a rolling office, bedroom, and courtroom, complete with a typewriter bolted to a fold-down desk for preparing reports and summonses on the spot. Number 1. VW Beetle Herbie Cop Car. Not all police vehicles needed to intimidate. While the Land Rovers conquered the unforgiving outback, a fleet of modified Volkswagen Beetles patrolled Australia's beach communities, creating what might be the strangest paradox in police vehicle history. Cars chosen specifically because they looked less like police cars. In coastal towns across Queensland and New South Wales during the late 1960s, beachgoers would often spot what locals affectionately nicknamed the Bug Squad. These unassuming VW Beetles with police markings initially caused more than a few double takes and smiles. What many didn't realise was that these vehicles weren't just a novelty. They represented a deliberate shift in community policing strategy. The police Beetles underwent several clever modifications that belied their innocent appearance. They featured custom-raised driver's seats for improved visibility over beachfront crowds, reinforced front bumpers for light-pushing duties, and the rear seating area was completely redesigned with specialised equipment storage, perfect for first aid supplies, beach safety gear, and basic crowd control equipment. What made these bugs truly special wasn't their mechanical prowess, but their psychological effect. In tourist-heavy areas where traditional police vehicles often created tension, the Beetles fostered approachability. Officers reported that citizens would regularly walk up to the Beetles just to chat or share information, something that rarely happened with their more intimidating patrol cars. This social experiment proved so successful that several coastal divisions kept their Beetles in service for nearly 5 years. However, not everyone appreciated the undignified image. Internal police memos from the period reveal that senior brass repeatedly attempted to have the program terminated, with one commissioner reportedly calling them an embarrassment to professional law enforcement. Despite their proven effectiveness in community relations, almost all official documentation of these vehicles was systematically removed from police archives during the 1970s. Today, finding photographic evidence of Australia's Bug Squad requires hunting through private collections and local newspaper archives, as if the vehicles had been deliberately erased from official history.